Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here, and I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, wherever you guys are from, and welcome back to another Bitcoin technical analysis. And in today's episode, I want to talk about this pennant that's forming on the Bitcoin chart, but even more so this diamond that's forming within the pennant, as well as where I believe Bitcoin can go, because it's kind of a choppy area, it's kind of unpredictable, so we're going to be breaking it down and looking at the technical analysis and what it's telling us. So if you guys are interested, go and stick around for the video, and do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive right on into this, because this is a very sketchy area. A lot of people are getting conflicted readings. Most people really aren't trading in here. Now, if I want to give a technical analysis onto what I think, there's a lot of things. So the first things first, of course, is the pennant. The pennant is what we're seeing at. That's the first thing that I notice when I'm on this chart. Besides this parallel channel, I'm going to kind of ignore that because we've talked about that for so many videos now. But if we're ignoring this parallel channel and the heart line and all of this, what we're seeing immediately is this pennant that could be forming on Bitcoin, right? We have one touch point up here, we have another touch point here, a third touch point here, and then of course on support we have 3 touch points as well, going 1, then 2, and then 3. So there is definitely a pennant that could be forming on the larger scale of Bitcoin. You can say the same thing actually for the smaller scale, so that if we want to actually zoom in over here and maybe we can switch this to a 1 hour, we can see the same thing that's happening. And so we can actually draw a pennant over here, just much like this, and do a lot of the same thing and say, all right, well, a pennant is definitely forming on both of our timescales. I would say definitely more significantly on the 4 hour in a larger view than in a smaller view on, say, like the 1 hour, because this is the really big one that's catching my eye here. I think it's very clean and it's very obvious. Now, looking at this on the 4 hour with inside the pennant, we actually had a diamond formation forming, and what looks like it was going to be a breakout or a breakdown, actually, a little bit of stop losses getting hit on both sides here. But with this diamond forming and possibly breaking out right now, this is one of the things that we were looking at in the Discord last night, because of course this is what I believe to be a fairly evident or clear diamond formation. I'm not the most familiar with diamond formations, but from my understanding that this is a pretty clear one, and with this happening, it's really just stop loss hunting right now, right? The fake breakdown out over here, of course, hitting support, bouncing back up. It's great that we have the support line because it's able to show us where this thing was bouncing off of, and then clearly getting rejected right now once again from the 50-day EMA, which is huge, because we talked about in the Discord again and on the Patreon about why this 50 EMA, or really just how this 50 EMA has just been brutal recently. With us just getting rejected after rejected after rejected, whether this is on like a 1 day or a 4 hour, or really wherever you're looking, this 50 EMA as of recently has been brutal to us. We're seeing again more rejection up in here when we were calling about this bear trap that we were wondering about and talking about a couple live streams ago, and now we're actually getting rejected once again. So that is what I want to highlight, at least on our 4 hour right now. Looking at our indicators and oscillators, our MACD, your oscillators are actually pointing up right now, and they're actually not looking too bad. But this is where I start seeing bearish divergence on your 4 hour because of your MACD. Now, while this is not rounded off yet, I would assume again that this is going to end in bearish divergence for MACD. If it were to round off right here, it would be double bearish divergence on your MACD indicator. And if we're looking at our RSI, the thing that I'm seeing over here is actually a potential double top on your RSI. So this is another thing that I'm looking out for on my 4 hour scale right now. We can actually move this up just a tad to see this, to really see that there could be bearish momentum heading our way. Now, we are heading from the oversold territory pretty deep in it, which means ideally we would start heading back to an overbought area. However, that's not necessarily how the how the RSI has to work. So this can really kind of bounce in here. It is neutral now. It's sitting almost completely neutral, and now that it has double topped, you could see bearish action in the price action of Bitcoin. So now that I've already gone ahead and broken down this 4 hour chart and what we've seen and what we've looked at with the diamond and support and resistance, I want to go ahead and break down the 1 day chart, because this is again I would say equally as important when we're looking at a breakout of this, because the breakout of this would be pretty substantial, right? If this is a pennant, and ideally this is a bearish pennant, right? Because as I've talked about in teaching technical analysis on the Patreon, I talked about why this was a bearish pennant, or why this is a bearish pennant formation. Again, same thing like this. Bearish pennant up here, we have to go to a little bit of a smaller scale to really show why this one up here was a bearish pennant, or really to see it. But the more we zoom in, the more you can see that this was indeed a pennant. Now, anyway, going back to our 1 day chart and looking at what we have to offer over in this section. highlight this guy just a little bit. So of course, guys, at the top of this, getting rejected, as I said earlier, from our 50 EMA in this area on our 1-day chart. Now that we're below both of our EMAs, we're down still in the center of this pennant, and this is actually good because you can see this thing a little bit more clearly on the 1-day. There's not as much going on, but we're really watching this diamond formation and how it wants to play out. And really where this wants to go. You know, are we going to break down and touch this heart line? Are we going to be able to break this support over here? Is this pennant going to have a breakdown? Because while pennants can lean one way or another, they still are a relatively neutral formation and continuation pattern. So when I'm looking at this again, I'm seeing that the volume is dropping off over here. And if you guys actually look at this, I'm going to go ahead and draw this out so you guys can see. But just like to kind of get a visualization of this. For the most part, guys, the volume, as you can see, is steadily getting consecutively lower and lower over here. You know, there are some median points that we can, you know, kind of discuss about, but for the most part, the volume is getting progressively lower and lower, which is not something I like to see. With this being a bearish pennant, I would assume that this thing would break downwards. With the volume dropping off, it makes me bearish. You got rejected from your 50 EMA, which again also makes me bearish, and this is also a downwards parallel channel, which again makes me bearish in that scenario. Now, looking at our 1-day chart, this is where things start to get a little bit spicy, because we talked about how this could actually be, again, bearish divergence, much like we're looking at on the 4-hour, and how that could turn into bearish divergence, which is much like our 1-day did. And so this did turn out, you really didn't get much of any kind of negative action in this area, which is kind of good. Your oscillators are pointing upwards right now. They look like they're rounding off to go back upwards. We're going to have to keep an eye on this MACD. Again, it looks like this thing could be turning bullish on the MACD. Pretty neutral for right now, but the RSI is where you really have a bullish case for Bitcoin. So again, we've talked about this a million times, but consecutively higher swing lows on your RSI 1-day is a pretty big deal. Whenever you see this, even on a 4-hour chart, this is a pretty big deal. Now, this is again how I've talked about why I was bearish on Bitcoin over here. Consecutive lower swing highs, again, is just never a good idea, never something good to see. And of course, we did have a fairly large breakdown, and now we're actually seeing the inverse of that. We're actually seeing consecutively higher lows over here. So ideally, you know, this would be telling me that this is a somewhat of a bullish idea for Bitcoin right here, at least off of our RSI and how I'm looking at this and rating this. Now, again, this is not for sure. This is not stated in stone, but you know, this does give me a general bullish sentiment with everything that is so bearish on this candlestick chart. And looking at this, you do have at least some of a bullish presence on your 1-day RSI. So it's not to say that the bears are just ruling supreme in here. While they are strong, they are not unbreakable, and that's again something that we're seeing with this kind of divergence over here. So it's really hard to say, you know, how is this going to play out? This is one of the hardest things to say. You know, I've called bull traps and bear traps in drops and falls and BARTs, but this is a hard area for me to call. This is one of the hardest places. And again, I haven't been really trading much at all in here. It just has not been worth it. Since I've had my last short, I have not entered a trade. This is what I believe to be a very risky area to trade. And it's really not just worth it. So I'm waiting for some sort of a breakout here, either up or down. I would say within the next 2 days. So probably at least by the time the weekend's over, I would assume something decent would have happened in this area. And that's really what I'm waiting for, because again, this is such a mixed feelings, weird formation on Bitcoin. I mean, the 4-hour just looks disgusting. Like, this diamond is again just very weird. I don't even know if we can call this a diamond anymore. We might be able to. Again, the whole way that this is forming is weird, probably manipulated, and something I do not want to trade in. So I'll let this thing take its course. It can break up or down, and then I'll probably start trading Bitcoin again. But as for the short term, again, I'm just staying away from this. So if this was to break out towards the upside again, I would see something around probably either your 200 EMA or this line of support that we used to have actually turn into resistance. I've talked about why I think that would be a very healthy move for Bitcoin. So, you know, maybe if it does want to break out of this, or at least see some sort of a bull rally, I would like to see it either touch your 200 EMA, which would probably come down a little bit lower from this point by the time you would touch it, or this former support line that would turn into resistance. If we were looking for a breakdown, again, I've said this a lot, at least on the Patreon, about targets. So I think I've already mentioned it on there. But I would again expect that if this were to break down, the heart line would be probably the first stop for Bitcoin. You know, below that you do have some support over here, and we can highlight this over here in this area, probably around $3,425. And below that, of course, you do have your supports over here, being your parallel channel and your giant falling wedge support. So there are a couple areas of support below this that we could target. I don't want to go too much into detail on that, but that's pretty much going to sum up this video. So I want to know your guys' thoughts, excuse me, in the comment section below. I want to know what you guys think. Where do you guys think Bitcoin's heading from here? Are you trading it? Is it worth it? Because again, this is a very weird, very weird position for Bitcoin. And it's just kind of nasty, to say the least. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. You know, are you trading this? Is it worth trading? Should you stay away from it? Is it going to break up or down? I want to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below and what you guys think. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and round this video up. If you guys did enjoy, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. And until next time, guys, I will see you in the next video.